اوكي. اوكي، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي امري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. And welcome everyone to this session, which is the third on our program. In this session, I will share with you some, information, some practice, hands-on about systematic literature review. Okay, and I would like to introduce myself first. My name is Hassan Abuhassna. I am a senior lecturer at School of Education. I have actually started working in UTM 1 year and a half. During this year, I have managed to publish around 14 papers, most of them in indexed journals. And I managed to get more than 100 citations thanks to systematic literature review. Okay, so in today's session, I have actually, because systematic literature review needs a lot of practice. When you start doing systematic literature review, you will be your own expert. But to be able to do that, you need to practice. You need to get to understand the meaning of systematic literature review and so on. So I will try my best to cover as much as I can. And if any of you needs more, advanced, a continuous workshop for this one, maybe we can do that later on. Okay. So in this session, I have divided this session into two main parts. The first part, we are going to learn about the concept of systematic literature review. What does it mean? How to do it? Why it's important? And stuff like that. And then when we finish, we will start to practice in one or two databases. Okay. So why do we actually need systematic literature review? Systematic literature review actually represent your field of research or study. How? Because systematic literature review is actually a combination of all the literature in your field of study. That's why you can see a lot of researchers are going through systematic literature review, especially professors, associate professors, and so on, because it simply, get published in very high impact journals, high impact factors, and so on. So what systematic literature review do is actually give you a guideline about all the trends, all the gaps, all the existing knowledge, all the existing problems in your field of study. That is why you notice if you are doing your PhD, your supervisor will ask you to start with a systematic literature review. If you do a systematic literature review in your early stages of study, that will give you the opportunity to get to know all the common or famous theories, the instrumentation, the guidelines of what other researchers have done in your field of study. And systematic literature review can be done not only in one or two fields, it can be done in all fields of the study, not only for the engineering, not only for the mathematics and so on. Okay, so it is actually follows a scientific method or framework. For example, the Prisma framework that we are going to explain later on. So that is why it's required. You will notice that some journals have at least one systematic literature review in each issue. Okay, so this is actually something journals or editors are looking for. Okay. And finally, it's easy to publish and are the most cited papers happens to be the systematic literature review, and you will get cited very quickly. Why? Because at the last part of your systematic literature review, you will write something called future agenda, which is the most important part. And this part is the most cited part as, as a recommendation for other researchers. And I'm going to share with you our recent published Q1 journals. I don't know if you can share, if you can see my PDF or only the slides. Can you see? Okay, that's the one. Can you see it, guys? The PDF file?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the paper that we recently published early this year. I have participated as a co-author, and this paper is actually published in a Q1 journal with more than 4 impact factor. Okay, so as we can see here, these are the main components of the systematic literature review, which start with the abstract, introduction, okay, and then method, and so on. And obviously the framework. I'm going to actually go step by step to each one of these so that we can understand clearly about systematic literature review. So can you see my slides back right now?
Yes.
All right. So the most important question, how to start your systematic literature review? The obvious thing that you need to actually be clear with is your research question. This is number one thing that you actually need to do when doing systematic literature review. And your research question needs to be very accurate, needs to be very clear, needs to have one relationship only, okay? Why? Because the more the relationship, the more the variables in one question, the more data you will get, the more numbers you will get, the more studies you will get. And in doing so, actually, you will have more than one systematic literature review paper because you have actually, at the end of the day, you have a limit. Each paper has, a limit of words, mostly 8,000 words, and that is not going to be enough if you are consuming a lot of variables, a lot of relationship. So number one, you need to have a very clear, precise research question. As we can see here, this is our paper, the example. What was the research content covered in previous studies? So one variable at a time. The second question is, what were the focus and trends? And then the research method, and then the major theories used or adapted. And then finally, the important factors for the future agenda. So if you can see here, the questions are very, very direct, very clear, and has one relationship. Okay. Okay. I would like to hear from you. If you don't want to talk, you can type in the chat. Let me have some examples of a research question. And here's an example you can actually follow and do on your own field of study. Because later on, you are going to need this because we need to practice, and I will let you practice with me. So please take the time and try to think about any research questions you would like to discover in this session. Any research question yet? Hello? Can you hear me? Uh, Anyone, can you hear me, guys? Can you hear my voice?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Okay, good, good. So, I think yes, you have something with your laptop, maybe, I know.
Dr. Hassan,
Yes.
I ask a question. How many questions are there that we need to have?
Only one, only one.
Okay.
Yeah, one variable is enough so that when you practice later on, you will have your keyword to start the search, the database. So let me see some of these research questions so that we can move on. Okay, that's a very good question. What are the factors which influence students' creativity during project-based learning? Okay, we can see one relationship. Okay, so to actually save the time, I will let you type the questions, and then later on, when we start to practice, I'll get back to the question, okay? Now, let's get to know the main components when writing systematic literature review. As any other, articles or papers, this systematic literature review has 6 main components, which is the abstract, introduction, methods, result discussion, and the most important part, which is the future agenda. This is the main contribution of any systematic literature review, which is the future agenda, your recommendation to other researchers to start from where you have actually come to conclude the results and so on. Now let's get to know what to include in each part of these, or how to write these parts. First, you are going to need to write the introduction of the study. Now, the introduction is something, can be the identification of the whole research. So you need to take your time, and you need to make sure that it's not too much. So that make sure it comes between 500 to 1,000 words, and it comes in 3 main paragraphs. This is my favorite way of writing the introduction, not only in systematic literature review, but in any, research, article research. Okay. Which first, what do you know about the problem, which is the existing knowledge from previous, very recent literature. So number 1 is, what do you know about the problem? Number 2 is, what are the limitations on that specific area, which comes from the previous one? And the limitation is going to drive you actually to find the gap. And then you will start to investigate what's going on. Okay, and then thirdly, the research questions of the paper. Now, for this is number one, the existing knowledge. You need to make sure not to exceed the limit, which is 1,000. So make sure each part of these will take between 300, 400 words each. But when writing about the existing knowledge, you need to make sure it's very recent literature review, not all than, maybe 10 or 8 years. And then you will start to write about the limitations. As you can see here, as I highlighted, although there is an increasing amount of literature on this emerging topic, little research has been devoted the current knowledge on blah, blah, blah. And then you will see here the other part. However, current research that investigates students' behavior in OSNs is rather fragmented. Thus, it's difficult to drive in depth and meaningful implications from these studies. Therefore, a systematic review of previous studies is needed to synthesize previous findings, identify gaps that need more research, and provide opportunities for future research. This is the limitation that actually drove you to write this systematic literature review. And finally, the third part of the introduction, which is the research questions. As I mentioned, it needs to be very clear, precise, one relationship at a time. Why? Because actually in the discussion, you are going to answer all these questions one by one, okay? So what was the research regional context covered in previous studies? You are going to answer this question using the data that you get from the database, whether it's Scopus or Web of Science and so on. And we will actually get to know how to answer these questions, how to get our, data set done and so on. Now before I move to methodology, is everything clear? Do you have any questions? Okay, good. Now, the methodology, which is actually the unique part of any systematic literature review paper. Now, when writing the methodology in systematic literature review, we need to understand that systematic follows a scientific way, which means it follows a theory or a guideline or a framework. Now, when we talk about systematic literature review, we need to follow a framework. And now, I'm not saying there is only one framework that you need to follow. Some researchers actually claim that Prisma is the only framework that you need to follow when writing a systematic literature review. But that is not actually true. Because in our paper that we published, we followed another framework. It's very, very rare, but it's accepted. Unless, since you are actually following the recommendations from the one that have created this framework, so you are going step by step, you are doing the right job. Now, when we talk about Prisma framework, it gives you stages that you need to follow, each one by one, so that you can actually conduct the systematic literature review. Now, Prisma framework has four main stages. The number one, which is the identification, screening, eligibility, and selection. Let's understand each of these stages, and we will get back to this framework. Number one, which is the identifications. What do we mean by identification is we need to identify, as I mentioned, that's why your research question is number one important thing that you need to prepare. You need to identify the main keywords. How do you actually get the keyword is from the research question, okay? Because all the data that you are going to get later on when you conduct the research depends on the keyword, how did you write them, how precise you were when you actually choose them. So the keywords is number one. And then the research database. Now, when we talk about databases, there are so many, okay? But to be able actually to conduct a systematic literature review, your research needs to be needs to use more than one database, not only Scopus or not only Web of Science. You need to do both, at least two, or you need to add more. Okay, but in other reviews, for example, there's sorry, there's actually this one bibliometric analysis. If you have actually heard about it, this is actually trending nowadays. If you conduct a bibliometric analysis, you can actually use one database, no problem. Okay, but in conducting a systematic literature review, you need to use more than one. Even Google Scholar is accepted when it comes to systematic literature review. And then finally, from the identifications, you need to save or let's say identify the record extracted. When you conduct the research on the Scopus database, you need to actually identify all these records. And now for the screening part. In the screening part, as we will practice later on, you need to clear everything that you need to include or exclude in the research. Because mostly, Scopus database, for example, has thousands of papers. If you conduct or you type one keyword and then you will type research, you will get thousands and thousands of articles in that particular research area. So in this case, you need to actually exclude some irrelevant papers, some irrelevant, years. So you need to include whatever language that you prefer. You need to include whether you want to study only published article papers, not include any conference papers or book chapters or any proceeding. So all these comes in this part or this stage of screening. And And then finally, the number 3 stage is eligibility, which you need to run a quality assessment. It's called quality assessment because when you run this kind of assessment, you actually exclude not only the exclusion criteria that you have used when you actually conduct the search in the database, but you need to exclude more precise information. For example, when you start the research using one keyword or two keywords, you will get, for example, 1,200 articles. And then you will start to exclude, for example, only English language, only published paper, only the last 10 years, okay? You will get around 200, 150 papers, but still this number is high. How you actually going to get the precise number of articles that you are going to review in your systematic literature? By running a quality assessment. How we actually do that is by reading all the papers abstract one by one and see each papers are irrelevant, each paper is good for you to use in this paper. This is what we called quality assessment. And then finally, you need to identify the number of the final paper after all these stages, the number of maybe 100 or 110 papers that is actually going to be the core of this paper. These are the 4 main stages of Prisma framework. Is everything clear, guys? Do you have any question before we go on to start practice? Any questions? Okay, let me share with you. This is the link of, we are obviously going to practice using Scopus database. Okay. As I mentioned, one database when conducting a systematic literature review is not enough. So you need to make sure it's more than one database. And to be able actually to use Scopus in your research, you need to have access. Now, I'm sure all of you have access from UTM. If not, if you are actually a reviewer and Elsevier, they will, if you review a paper, they will give you actually 1 month free of access to Scopus if you are away from UTM, or you can log in off campus from the library. So this is the page that you are going to get. Now we have many options. First, by documents, author, affiliations. And in our case, obviously, we are going to choose documents. Search within all fields, article, title, and so on. There are so many. I usually use article, title, abstract, keywords. So what does that mean is that I need whatever keywords to be written here is to be included, whether in the article, title, or the abstract, or the keywords. By using so, it's going to actually increase my opportunity to get more articles. Okay, let's select any keyword. I'm going to go with, for example, future education. Okay, now this is actually one keyword. Okay, but if I leave it just like that, Scopus will understand that these are 2 words, not only one. If I want Scopus to understand this combination as one word, I need to put them as in, a comma actually. Okay, so let's try and see how many results. You can see we have 182,000 of documents plus, okay? And now let's go back and try to put the comma that I have mentioned just now. You see the difference? 1,131. So using comma and using a very precise keywords is very, very important, okay? Have you noticed the difference between these two? Do you want me to repeat or it's clear? Now, if you have more than one keywords, you can actually simply add and do add whatever keywords that you are going to use. For example, here, online learning, for example, okay, and then search. You see, we only have 19 documents that actually have these two terms as a keywords, which is very limited, okay? So what I'm gonna do now is I'm going to delete this one and stick with the future education as a keyword. Now here is all the data extracted or, from the Scopus database. What you need to do now is you need to select the criteria, what you need to include, what you need to exclude from this search, okay? First, we have this open access, whether you want to select only all open access and so on. You need to select the years. It's totally up to you. If you want to, let's say, conduct this research only for the previous 10 years, then you can select that. Now, 2021 is not over yet, but just in case, because we are very near from the end of it, we can involve 2021, 22 till okay. That's for the last 10 years, last decade, okay? And then we had limit 2. Now, if you do that, you will notice that the documents number is already decreased by about 400. Now you can do a lot of, uh, inclusion and exclusion criteria, but you need to remember whatever you have actually made, because you need to explain that in your paper in the methods. In the subject area, which is very, very important because we are all from, humanities and social science. So I'm going to select only social science and art humanities. Because it's future education, I'm going to select computer science as well. So I'm going to select only these three subject area. Okay. For the document type, I'm going to only choose article. I don't need any conference paper or review, book chapter, and so on. Okay, what else? You obviously can't choose if you want to exclude some countries. Okay, the source type, journal, conference, proceeding, let's say only journal, and then finally the language. Let's stick only with the English language, and then limit 2. You will see after all this exclusion criteria, we have 232 out of 1,131. And this is not yet the final number because, as I mentioned, you are going to run something called quality assessment when you actually extract this data from Scopus. Okay, a very, very important thing that you actually need to be aware of. You see all this information right here? This is very important for you when you build your Prisma framework. Let me open these slides again. Okay. Can you see my slides? Can you see the slides, guys? Okay, good. Now here, in these 4 stages, if you can see, for example, the identification, Scopus database, 21st August, okay? And then the keywords, future and education, and sustainability for education, and sustainable education. Where did I get this from? Is from the area that I have highlighted for you. So you need to, after, you know, after you conduct this search, only take this one, copy and save it wherever in your PC, open a new Microsoft Word document or text document and save all this information. The publication year as well, you will take it from there. The limit to subject area, as we selected 3 subject area. Let me go back to the Can you see it? The website? Okay. You can see here, limit to publication year, start from this one until 2011. Okay. And then limit to document type, article only. And limit to subject area, we have 3 subject area, which is social science, computer science, and arts and humanities. And about the language as well, limit to English. The source type is only journals. So these information are very, very important for you to keep. Now, when we get these kind of results, what are we going to do first is we're going to select all, and then we just go ahead export. Now, when you hit export, you will get this window right here. What I need to do is I need to export all this information in Excel sheet. So I'm going to use CSV Excel. Okay, what type of information that you want to include in this file is totally up to you. Whatever information that you need, whatever information that you need to present, and whatever information that you need to answer your questions. So for the citation information, I'm only going to stick with author ID maybe, and then the DOI. This one, I'm not going to need it. The abstract, yes, I need the abstract. The author keywords, index keywords, funding, I don't need it. And then I'm going to need the references. After I select whatever criteria, it's totally up to you to do that. You hit export. And you will start to notice that the file is actually downloading. It might as well take some time because it will be huge sometime with a lot of information. I'm going to show you this file very quick, and then we'll get back to Scopus database. Show in folder. We'll take this one, cut, and copy in the desktop. I will open this Excel file. Okay. Can you see the file, guys? Okay, good. Now, the most important part in this file is the abstract. Why? Because as we mentioned, the initial number was 1131. And by the way, you need actually to keep this information as well so that when you write your Prisma framework, you need to mention the initial search was 1132 or 31, and then after running the inclusion exclusion criteria 200 something, and then after running the quality assessment, the final amount of articles, which will be most probably 90 to 100. Okay, how to do the quality assessment is by reading all these abstracts. Okay, what I usually do, I select the whole uh, column and then copy to Microsoft Word file, and then I will read each one uh, uh, slowly. I'll take my time, highlight the most important thing that I need to build my tables later on, which, for example, what is the method used, what is the theory used, and sometimes you are going to need to know the type of let's say research design, whether it's qualitative or quantitative. All this information you can get from the abstract, and while you are reading you will find a lot of articles that is actually irrelevant to your research area, so that you can easily delete them. This is what we mean by the quality assessment. Okay, so far so good, guys. Do you have any questions? Is that clear? Okay, now let me get back to the Scopus. Takes time to get back. Okay, now this is the results that we have. Now Scopus provides you with pretty amazing, stuff to do with your results. Now, if you let Scopus analyze research results, you will get this. If you can see here, okay, this is the analysis that Scopus run, okay? You will see a lot of categories that you actually can use, all right, in building the figures, the tables in your systematic literature view. This is, for example, the distribution based on the year, okay? You can see here in 2011, only 19 documents. Here, 2020, which is the highest rate, 38 documents. Here, 32, because 2021 is not over yet, okay? And then we can see documents by authors. This is actually something that you need to do when writing the systematic literature review. You need to highlight the most prolific authors, and then you need to highlight the most prolific countries. And then after countries, you need to highlight the most prolific universities. Okay. Now let's take one or two examples of how to actually use this figure, make it usable in your systematic literature review paper. First of all, I would like to close this. Oh, the attendance link is not working. I wonder if Mr. Hem is actually listening to us. Can you please help with the attendance link? Okay. Now let me open a Microsoft Word file. Okay. Now how to do this to start building your own figures and tables. For example, there's documents by year. What you need to do is export CSV v file, export. Okay, you will get this document. You just go show in folder, and then you open this file. These are the information. Can you see the Excel? Okay. These are the information that you get from Scopus database. Just go to Microsoft Word now. Okay. And then you go to Insert, then Chart, then go for whatever chart you would like. Okay. You will see here an Excel window popped up. This one. I don't know if you can see it. You can see this one. That only that. Okay. Okay, this one has 4 columns which we don't need. We need to delete 2 of them. And then we go back to the Microsoft Word that we Excel copy. We go back here and then select and paste. And this is the figure that we actually have, the first figure. All right. Figure 1. Okay. By years. And here you will start writing figure 1. Okay. Moreover, the most with, see how many, 38 articles, papers, published papers. And then you will continue to explain about the figure that you have actually created. Okay. Everything clear, guys? Do you want you to do another example of this figure? How to extract and build the figure? Okay, another example. I'll go back to the Scopus database, and let's say this time I want to do the distribution by countries. Okay. What you need to do after selecting the countries, you need to export the file, CSV, export. Okay, and then you just open this file. Can you see? You will notice when dealing with countries and universities, the amount of data that you are going to get is so many that you cannot actually represent all of them. So what we usually do is we take the first 15 or 10. It's up to you. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, let's say first 15. And what you need to actually call them is, okay, go back here, insert, chart, do the same I will delete these two. I don't need them. Okay, and then I will paste. Okay. All right. And you will get this. Now, what to call this figure is figure 2, for example. Figure 2, the most prolific universities in the field of future education. All right. And then you will start to do the same. You will need to highlight the one with the most published article. You can get it from this figure. If you just move your mouse, you will get 43 articles from United States, and not universities, sorry, countries. Okay. Is that clear, guys? Is everything clear? Okay, what I need you to do now, I need you to start selecting your own keyword, start the search, and then show me some of the examples of figures that you have created, because I need you to practice. That's the whole point of this session. So is 10 minutes enough for you? Is 10 minutes enough? Okay. Okay, I'll leave you for 10 minutes. I will get back to you. Okay, thank you very much. While practicing, if you have any questions, I'm right here. The library website. Let me see. Gem library. You can try, I can open it actually. I can, no problem. You can try this link. Oh, I think there's no problem, but you after you open the link, you can log in as off campus, something like that. Does it open for you? Not yet. Okay. Okay, good. Dr. Ali, how are you, my friend? Everything okay? I just want to practice, you know? So maybe you can share how many, documents you got in the initial search, and then when you excluded for example, you selected the years, the language, the article type, the subject area, all this kind of information. How much or how many articles did you get as the second stage? We have, as I mentioned, the initial search, which will be a huge number, and then after the inclusion and exclusion criteria, you will get around 300, and then finally you need to do the quality assessment, which is done by reading the abstract of each one. This comes actually later on as an advanced stage. So I just need you to practice. Yeah, welcome. So any of you has actually already published a systematic literature review paper? Not yet. What about Dr. Q?
Yes, yes, I did publish a simple systematic review paper. Just a
Okay,
simple one, yeah.
so the whole thing is familiar to you.
Yes, but the method is different from what you have taught us just now, so maybe I would like to try it.
Okay, that's
Thank you
lovely.
for the sharing.
Welcome. Okay, that's good. I know. Is it using the same framework,
Yeah,
Prisma?
yeah, I use Prisma. Yeah,
Okay.
but I did a manual searching. It is not use the keywords. I mean, like the one you showed us just now.
Oh, oh,
Yeah, I did manually, so I think your method is more effective and can save the time.
okay, okay.
Mm.
Actually, I want to share with you guys about the 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 other framework that we have used in our paper. Maybe this is something actually new because it's not familiar. As I mentioned, Prisma Framework is the most common, and I have actually attended so many workshops about conducting systematic literature review, and I've listened to the researchers. They always say this is the only framework that you need to follow when it comes to systematic literature review. But as you can see here, this paper, let me get it bigger. Okay, let me Let me go to the methods part. You see here, this study follows Kitchenhand and Carter's guidelines, which is actually has nothing to do with Prisma. In this framework of them, they have actually 3 stages, which are planning, conducting, and reporting. You see here, this is number 1, planning. Before conducting any systematic HFU, it's necessary to clarify the goal and so. And then stage 2, conducting, and then finally reporting. Reporting, which means, you know, the results of the research. Okay, and you will see the review results. You need to deal with each question aside. Each question has its own data. Okay, so as shown, and these are figures just like the one that we have created right now. This is, for example, the number of publication by years, and some of them the number of publication by countries, most prolific authors, and so on. This one, the distribution of published by region, the countries, but it's a different style. So, yeah, this is how we can actually start with a systematic literature review. And I really hope that this session was helpful. And I know it's not enough because, as I mentioned, maybe systematic literature review needs maybe a whole day workshop so that we can cover everything, including the methodology and search the practice part, how to start actually writing the methods, which is very, very important, and including the reporting, including the explanation, how you have done each stage of your systematic literature review. So, if you are interested, maybe we can do another session in the future. And I think, okay, sure. I would love to. I will talk to Dr. Noor Fandi and we'll see. Maybe we can take 3-4 hours, starting from what we have actually ended so that we can write. Maybe we can create our own systematic literature review at that day so that we can go on and publish. Okay, guys, I'm running out of time, so let me open for Q&A. If you do have any questions, please go ahead and ask me before we end. Is the attendance link not yet working? It's not working. It's no longer accepting. Okay. Okay, guys, so do we have questions? Do you want me to repeat something or do whatever? Okay, good afternoon, Dr. Chi. We can actually know the topic is suitable if we started to type the keywords on Scopus database or Web of Science and we get results. Now, if you don't get results, 10 or 15 maybe articles at the initial search, this is a big sign that it's not doable or the keyword is not precise enough. Maybe you can mention one more keyword so that it will be, or you will get some, more, let's see, results, articles. So keywords are very, very important. Keywords, the main research questions of the systematic literature review are very critical when it comes to SLR. And as I mentioned, for other reviews like meta analysis reviews or bibliometric analysis, one database is enough. But when you conduct a systematic literature review, one database is not enough. I actually don't know who put this rule, but I get this information from more than one editors. I have sent systematic literature review, and they rejected the paper only because I use one database. So they always say that it's a must to use more than one database when it comes to SLR. But for other types of papers, it's okay. Because I've published maybe 4 bibliometric analysis papers as well, which is, as I mentioned, is very trendy nowadays. The thing about bibliometric is very simple. You can do your own paper in a week or so. So yeah. And you can publish in Scopus. Yeah. The bibliometric analysis I have published in Scopus. Some of them indexed, some of them not indexed yet. So do we have any questions before we end our session? Any question? I think Dr. Nurfandi shared the link. Can you try, please, if it's working? I think still the same problem. Huh? Any more questions, guys? Any more questions? Okay, good. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you get something in this sharing session, and I wish you the best. And for any research collaboration, I'm very happy to help. Thank you again, guys. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.